Habari ma Africa, asante kwa kutazama King Said So. Ladies and gentlemen, in this video I want to cover this beautiful interview that Mighty Jimmy had with Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, and there we were thinking that Sizwe is going to drop another announcement, big announcement, but hey, they were joking with us. I wonder where Mighty Jimmy got this nice MK regalia, some beautiful clothes there that he had. I also want, and I'm sure this was Mighty Jimmy's idea. He's a low-key comedian, that one. I'm pretty sure about that. But the interview was, when it kick-started, it was a very serious interview, very serious topic addressed in that interview, and I want to touch on some of them just a little bit, elaborate a little bit more than what Mighty Jimmy has said, because I believe this thing of political funding, how political parties are funded in South Africa is madness. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like the PSL, you just accompanying the top 3 or the top 4. The rest of you are just struggling to even make a normal small event or campaigning or whatever it is. I mean, it's really unfair. I want to speak about technology also, how South Africa is lacking behind. Mighty Jimmy says our politicians are not serious with the technological and science advancement of the country, especially in Africa at large. It's like we are waiting for someone to create something in China, in America, before we can replicate or copy or even maybe buy from them. And I also want to speak about what John Steenhuisen, he's doing there in the Department of Agriculture. The HR of each department or ministry is in question in South Africa, and really, if you don't have the best people, most qualified people running that ministry, you're just wasting your time. And Mighty Jimmy covered on that. So I want us to break down this interview, not the entire interview. You can go on Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh to go and watch it, but we're gonna talk about some serious points in this video and much more.
Welcome to King Said So, Africa's one land, one language, one currency, one army on King Said So. Africans can unite. Your Pan-Africanist podcast. Enjoy.
Peace in Pan-Africanism to all my African brothers and sisters from all around the world. Welcome back to King Said So. I'm your host, Kagiso Hlongwane Zinjiva Sono, and we're back at it again with another one. And this time around, we're going back to this Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh podcast where he hosted Mighty Jimmy, two great gentlemen in the media space, in the new media space and the podcast space. It is some people that you need to listen to and subscribe to their channel. Let's try to push their channel with more subscriptions, and I'm sure you're not going to regret it. Very informative podcasters, the two of the gentlemen. I like them. I watch a lot of their content, without skip, I'm telling you. So ladies and gentlemen, Mighty Jimmy speaks about the political funding structures in South Africa. And I can't help to say or to think it is unfair to compete with me. If we are in the same race, I have a flippin' BMW 4 pipe and you have a donkey. It's unfair, guys. We need to think about this in a political scientific way, because parties that we think they are big, they are not actually big. They are just well funded.
But Nicky Oppenheimer makes interesting contributions in the tail end of the election, where he makes contributions to IFP in particular. I think at some point he gives 20 million in April and another 20 million in May. What this suggests to me is that there was polling indicating to them internally that MK was going to blow out KwaZulu-Natal and potentially get over the 50%. So if you're seeing those numbers, then you're going to put a stimulus package to the IFP to make sure that you can at least give some kind of a fight back opportunity to the IFP. What ends up happening is that the IFP claws back enough that they can then make a coalition with DA, with ANC to stop MK from taking KwaZulu-Natal, which, if there's a moral argument to be made, I think that MK should have been allowed to govern KwaZulu-Natal. But that's the second point. Maybe we can have that conversation. But looking at the flow of money, it became ascertainable to me that it seems as if power brokers and elites are making strategic bets so that they can have, one, access to the decision makers. If you look at it, for example, Naspers, they make a variety of contributions to the Democratic Alliance and the ANC, not to the other political parties. And that to me is like a little bit worrying, because you're a media house owning a company. You own News 24, Media 24. And this is one of the publications post the election, which then started saying, no, the markets prefer the ANC and DA coalition, which to me, I was like, these people don't get along. They don't like each other. What is the rationality of this? But, when you read the book Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky and Edward S. Herman, you begin to understand how the dominant mainstream media cultivates attitudes, perceptions, and reactions. So when I look at how the donors played a role in bringing these two entities together, by the way, the other thing that is interesting here is the amount of money the Democratic Alliance got. I think in total, they had about 300 million in the last 3 years that they got towards the local government elections, as well as the national elections. Think about that. They're competing with that amount of money being donated, mostly from the Oppenheimers, also from Michel Leroux. Doesn't that give them some kind of a competitive advantage against the other political parties which are not able to access those resources? Doesn't that put a finger on the scale of democracy when donors can then look and say, oh, this guy is unpopular. People are worried about the black exodus from this particular party. People are worried about ABC. If I give them an additional 100 million or I give them another 50 million, doesn't that change the trajectory of the party's performance? Because they're able to put out all those radio ads that they were able to put out and a variety of other things, posters, etc. So when I look at the donors, it seems to me that there was a push of money to influence the outcome of the election. Then when I look at the media, post the results being announced, there it seems as if there was a definite push.
And there's an intersection between the two, right?
Because it's the same people who own and are donating to these entities, not to mention the fact that some of the rich billionaires also own polling companies where they can publish polling to say this particular entity is more popular, this particular entity is less popular. And polling in general is something that is getting scrutinized more closely because it's being used as a tool of soft persuasion, because some people look at the poll and then they go with it, not thinking about are all of the metrics of this poll scientific. So
I think what Jim is saying, what he's raising here is very important. 300 million over the past 5 years. What type of nonsense is that? Why are we allowing this as South Africans that there is no weight cap on how much people can get? I know there is a cap on one person, one donor, but these donors, they just shift names and shift companies, and you are actually getting money from the same person, the same family or two families, and the DA getting over 300 million actually in the past 5 years since the last local elections. It's madness. It's madness. So you guys think that the DA is this powerful opposition party? They are doing great, and they are just well-funded. They are just well-funded. You can see even with the EFF when they started struggling with funding, and compare them to the current EFF right now that has got a building, that they are paying a bond, they've got a farm. The EFF is doing good because the more money you have, the more you can do better. You understand? Which makes me question, who's funding this MK political party? Because the MK political party is well funded also. You can see now that the MK political party, there is a budget there. There's a serious budget. But when it comes to the Democratic Alliance, with all the funding that they have, they still can't make it past 25%. If you take that money that the DA has and you give it to the EFF will be probably the biggest party in South Africa. Because I can't speak on the pockets of the MK. It's still too early. I'm not sure if maybe they have more money than the EFF. I'm not sure. Because it looks like there is money there in the MK. Poor, our IFP getting 20 million here, 20 million there. What are they doing with this money? It's just to disturb that the correct voice of the people must not be heard. These white monopoly capitalists, they are not playing around, ladies and gentlemen. They are pushing the narratives. They own the polling companies. They own the media companies. They own the newspapers. They own everything to shift our narrative into a certain direction, as if the DA is doing well. The DA is not doing well. It's well funded. They are very well funded, ladies and gentlemen. So parties like the PAC, Azapo, Rise Mzansi, Arise Mzansi, Mbabompo Dagada, and all of those people have got genuine good policies, genuine good ideas and everything. They will get nowhere in South African politics if they are not funded properly. And that is the sad thing in South Africa. There is just so much that the Patriotic Alliance can do because of funding. There's just so much that Al-Jamaa can do without political funding. It is an unfair playing field, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the funding that the ANC gets, and you can't compete with the ANC with events. You're taking chances. You can't compete with the ANC. No matter what political party you are, wherever the ANC goes, people are well funded and everything. Their organization sometimes question them. You remember they in Mpumalanga where they were throwing food at people. They were not prepared for the magnitude of people that came there and how to feed them and everything. But with the EFF, you can see every cent counts. The way they pack their things, the way they strategize and execute the whole event, you can see that every cent counts because that funding comes from small pockets. But those ones who get big pockets, guys, I wonder what are you guys saying? Okay, the big political parties, they need to do more, but can there be a cap, like a cap, man, like 100,000 and not more than that in 5 years, something like that, man? Because if you are going to have so much funding, your campaigning is going to be more aggressive. So the media has to cover you Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because the party is moving. You've got funds to move around. And then the people are only going to see the Democratic Alliance, the ANC, the IFP maybe somewhere here and there, and the EFF and the MK political party. We are never going to see these small parties that will have maybe 2 weekends in the whole entire month where they are having a function, an event somewhere. It's unfair, man. It's unfair. Let's hear what Mighty Jimmy has to say about Africa and technology and why we are lacking behind.
First year of this technology, but it's worrying to me when I look at, and let me just extend this beyond just South Africa. When I look at African politicians, I don't see any appreciation from them about the fast changing environment, which is not going to only affect manufacturing. It's going to affect knowledge production. It's going to affect a lot of sectors. They are acting as if it's 1999 or 2009. When it's 2024 and Elon Musk is launching robots that can re-enter the environment and be reused, the scientific advancements that we are seeing in the West do not warrant a lack of urgency in the African ecosystem. And have we seen any minister having real conversations about the scientific advancements, what we need to catch up? When I read books like How Europe Underdeveloped Africa or Guns, Germs and Steel, which are popular books that are referenced when we're talking about underdevelopment in Africa. The key message, even if you want to add why nations fail, the key message is that technology is a factor in the underdevelopment of a society. So at all times, you must stay on top of the technology as a community, as a people. If there's new stuff coming in that is changing how stuff is made, produced, distributed, consumed, you have to be on top of that. Otherwise, those technological advancements will render your society obsolete and you won't be able to generate revenue, income, etc.
Yeah, maybe someone has to tell us which African country is most technologically advanced, because when you look at our army, our manufacturing of weapons, our manufacturing of automobiles, we are lagging behind like nobody's business. Everything, actually. That's why I said, for me, as a Pan-Africanist, this BRICS relationship, it's kind of for me. Because if you continue to look up to Russia, continue to look up to China, and what, you will never get anything done by yourself, because you will always have your hand out for handouts from those countries. When are we going to compete with China? There's nothing. They are not more brilliant than us. Their education system is just, put up in a way that innovation is encouraged, not in Africa. Look at we still have children learning underneath the tree because our politicians don't take education serious. Why do you think I'm crying so much for your support for the Pan-African School of Economics, Technology and Agriculture? I mean, look at our plan. Just take a look at our plan. I'm telling you, Paseta will be the most beautiful school, most technologically advanced school in South Africa, probably in Africa. Because we believe in innovation in Paseta. I mean, look at the school. You guys, what you are seeing is the land plan, the building that is on the land. There will be buildings that are underneath the land. That's how that's how far we're going to go in our innovation. You understand? Everything that you go and do there in Paseta, it will be digital transactions and everything, like digital boards in the school, all of that. Our children will be so much exposed to proper technology, not this nonsense that we are doing in South Africa. No. We are going nowhere as Africa. So I will always plead with you guys, please send your contribution to the Pan-African School of Economics, Technology and Agriculture, and let's show everybody that we as Africans can do something that has never been done in Africa before. And I'm so obsessed. Every day I watch the best schools in China on YouTube, the best schools in Japan, the best schools in Europe. I'm just so obsessed and looking at those schools. I'm like, oh, Paseta must have that. Oh, we can do better than that. Oh, we can do that. All of those things. Because I believe that Africans can do it. But our politicians, these old mutuals that are there in parliament, they are dragging their legs, those ones. Even these young ones that are in their 40s, technologically, they are very challenged. But anyway, I'm not going to speak much on that. All I'm going to say is support the Pan-African School of Economics, Technology and Agriculture. I promise you, we are not going to disappoint the coming generation. Let's hear what Mighty Jamie has said about Dr. Steenhuisen. Apparently, he has registered at UNISA. Yes,
I want to discuss there, which is, I touched on it a little bit, but it's the HR element. Mm. Every minister operates through a team. You cannot be everywhere. You are the decision maker, the delegator.
Sure.
If you think about the Ministry of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, he's had a lot of HR issues there, which worry me about the broader cabinet. And I'm using him as a case study.
Yeah, sure.
Because at the beginning, he hired a chief of staff. There were issues with the chief of staff. He said, I'm asking the chief of staff to leave. The chief of staff is still there.
Yeah.
And then he tried to also add 4 people who were unqualified for the job, didn't get the special accommodation that he was seeking. As things stand right now, I don't even know if he has a staff contingent outside of his chief of staff. Then the question then becomes, who's working in the ministry then, right? From the executive side of things. Of course, you've got the bureaucracy that will work regardless of who comes in and who doesn't. But to provide strategic leadership, delegation, decision-making, the minister needs to have his full contingent in place,
Sure, and hit the ground
operating.
running, right?
So now you don't have advisors, you don't have your PA. Who's doing any of this stuff? And that, to me, also is something that I think we need to be paying more attention to. Because if we want to understand the efficiency of an administration, we can't just...
I actually tried to check if what you call John Steenhuisen registered in agriculture related courses, because I wonder what is it that he's studying there. Because you know how these politicians, they will study political science and human relations nonsense that they will be studying there. That's what most of them have degrees in, actually, in political science. So my issue is, yeah, you are going to study, very good for you, but you have a job as a minister that you are not qualified for. When are we going to fix that issue? You have a ministry that you try to bring more matriculants into the ministry and you failed. Now the question is, who is running the ministry with John Steenhuisen? Who's running the ministry? You saw Gayton McKenzie took out 4 ministers, members of parliament, and then he took one of them into the Ministry of Sports. Like, you don't have an experience to be a member of parliament, but let's bring you here in the Department of Sports where you can work in the ministry. Still, no qualifications. That's what Mighty Jim is saying. Look at the team that is running behind every minister, and you will understand that it's not going to work. Look at how Minister Kwahube Siviwe Kwahube is struggling. No team behind her. No team. She's just there to push a party mandate in the ministry. That's why we will never hear Minister Kwahube up until she's fired. I hope she gets fired, that one. Up until she's fired or up until her term ends, you will never hear that woman address racism. And look at how many mistakes she's already making. Look at that matriculant who, what's his name? From Department of Public Works, Dean McPherson. Since he told you guys there's 300 million that was stolen from Department of Public Works, since he told you guys that till today, the other one there in the Department of Home Affairs, they are failing to reveal the woman that Chedima's mother stole the identity from. Because that same woman, 3 months later, she got another ID. That is what is happening here. They don't give you guys the full stories. But if you go and read on it, you will find out that what I'm saying is quite correct. So we have ministers. Guys, you guys don't know how painful this thing is. I don't mind if you have a matric, but you grew up in a farm, you understand farming. Farming is second nature to you. When you speak, I can hear this person understands farming. I don't mind, because I know at the end of the day, these qualifications, some of them, they get outdated anyway. If you studied agriculture 10 years, 20 years ago and graduated, the science and the technology in the agricultural sector has changed so much. Your qualification is outdated, to be honest. Imagine you studied science and technology in 2001, and you have that degree, and you're still walking around with that degree in 2024, thinking that is relevant. Programming and everything has changed so much since 2001 up to today. So I don't put too much emphasis on the on the qualification, but the knowledge that you have, how informed you are. You can hear someone who just took one paper and memorized some words there and some things to say and try to impress us. But some of us, we work in the agricultural sector, so you're not going to impress us with just saying some things. We can hear that you don't know anything. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? So you guys tell me what you think about the interview of Mighty Jimmy. Please go to Dr. Sizo Mpofu's podcast and watch the entire thing. I don't want to break down the entire thing, you know. Let's give them the respect of feeding us with the information that they are giving us. Go and also support Mighty Jimmy on his podcast. Things Mighty Jimmy, and support him there. And I will continuously be grateful for everyone who is supporting the Pan-African School of Economics, Technology and Agriculture. Everybody that is donating to the school, thank you so much, guys. The launch of the school, the launch of Paseta, the fundraising event is coming in April 2025. I'll keep on making noise about that up until that date comes. Please make sure that you save some 200 Rand, 300 Rand, 400 Rand, 500 Rand and come to the Northern Cape. Some of you have never been to the Northern Cape. You've never been to Kimberley, never seen the Big Hope, never seen the beauty of Northern Cape. So please, I'm inviting you. Make sure that you clear up the first weekend of April so that you can come here and bless us with your presence and come and meet your boy, the king of 053, Mr. Easy Imali Eneng. Until we meet again, don't forget to pray. But after you pray, stand up, African child. Do your best so that God can do the rest. Peace in Pan-Africanism. I salute you.